Joanne. Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of June 9th, starting at 7 o'clock. We'll do roll call.
Jerry Cabasso, Cecilia Green, Donna Weir.
Here.
Robert Perry.
Here.
Nayan Metha.
Yes.
Jim Russell.
Here.
Jeff Petro.
Here.
Tracy Spadilla.
Here.
Mike Sobel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the May 12th, 2014 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion? Make a motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Sure.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, then moving on to the discussion on truth in online advertising. Tony?
Thank you, Donna. This item was generated via a business visit that was conducted at Town and Country Gardens with myself and Commissioner Jeff Petro back in mid-April. And as a follow-up, we discussed it briefly at last month's meeting, the report on that particular business visit. And if you recall, or if you've had a chance to review it, there was an issue of online flower order gathering websites. And this is whereby essentially search engine flower order gatherers come up prominently if you do a search of terms such as florists, Bartlett, Illinois, or florists really anywhere. That's the same thing if you search in any community. So this was brought up by Ms. Laurel Engelman, who is the owner of Town and Country Gardens, which now includes a total of 5 flower shops. She explained to us at this meeting that many flower orders are placed through these large search engines that don't have an actual physical presence in Illinois or in some cases anywhere. This practice deprives the local florist of a significant percentage of the profit margin, as well as the state of Illinois of their much-needed sales revenue. Deceptive online ads can impact not only the business, but customers, the brand and reputation of a local florist if somebody's unhappy with service, or perhaps the way the order was processed or the way the billing was processed. And tackling this issue, we talked about it a little bit last month, isn't necessarily something that as an Economic Development Commission we can solve, but we can have some input in perhaps on a step-by-step basis, sending some information to the state eventually about it. Anyway, the Village Board has asked the EDC to look into this matter, including tactics to continue promoting buying local rather than over the Internet, and also the potential of sending some type of proclamation or contacting a local legislator to see what, if anything, can be done at the state level. Before I introduce Ms. Engelman, I wanted to point out a couple of things. The second page of this memo you see is a simple Google search of Bartlett, Illinois florists. You can see that the paid advertisers, or the advertisers that pay the most through Google typically come up first. For instance, Ava's, Flower Delivery Express, and Just Flowers. Then you see a number of local florists, such as Flowers by Christine, Bartlett Florist, which also drives people to Town and Country Gardens. Then what you see after Town and Country Gardens, and Dollar Tree, which is an actual business over in Streamwood. I want to, just for the heck of it, I placed a phone call to this Bartlett Flowers and Gifts that you see, and I made a little mark next to that. The person who answered the phone there stated flowers and gifts. And so, of course, that could apply to any town in any state. I asked, is this Bartlett Flowers and Gifts? To which she replied, this is called Bloom Fresh. And I said, well, what is Bloom Fresh? It's a order gathering, wire service. She told me it's a wire service is the way she described it. I happen to know that 1048 Norwood Lane is a dental office located by the McDonald's off of Route 59, and there's no flower shop there, I can assure you. I didn't call some of these others, but I can only assume that Uncommon Blooms and Wreathworks are probably in the same light. So that's just a brief summary. Of course, Ms. Engelman, as I stated, has many years operating multiple flower shops, and she knows quite a bit more about this issue than I do. And so we've invited her to speak on the matter tonight, tell the commission what she knows about it or what may be done, and then hopefully to answer some questions as they come up. So it's my pleasure to introduce one of our local business owners, Laurel Engelman.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you some of the challenges that are facing florists. The industry has undergone many changes in the last 10 or 15 years. While some are wonderful, like the quality, availability, longevity, and variety of flowers, it's tremendous. It's so much more than it had been when I started in the industry over 40 years ago. But by the same token, now your small town mom and pop shops are becoming an endangered business. With your tech-savvy consumer, people don't want to take the time to walk into a shop to place an order. They might think of it in the middle of the night, so by golly, I'm going to go online and pick something out. Unless the person is well acquainted with their own community, they are not going to see the shops that are actually in your town. Who's going to pop up but these order-gathering shops? If you were to ask them specifics about a product, they have no product knowledge. They will send orders to us that are for, say, $35, including delivery, and it will have roses, it'll have lilies. It's all these things that they have no idea the cost of a product. All they are is taking an order over the internet, shipping it off to us, minus delivery and everything else. So any wire order that we receive, we are getting approximately 73%. Okay? That's what comes to us. Now, we do try to keep up with trends. We do have websites, 800 numbers. We try to have our staff knowledgeable in what we do, and we happen to deliver to 24 communities directly between our shops. Now, how did we get 5 flower shops? Oh, it wasn't because we loved it so much and thought all these opportunities. There are shops everywhere selling out. They cannot stay as a single business. The only, I don't want to say divide and conquer because there's nothing to divide. Ken, who had Bartlett Florist, was here for, 17 to 20 years. He didn't get out of it because he hated the industry. He's still in it to an extent, but he could no longer make a decent living doing it. Now, who are these order gatherers and how are they hurting us? Well, they pay for the websites, and as a result, theirs jumps up first. They promise same-day delivery, but unlike your real local business, they're not supporting the charities, the clubs, your schools, and with what's left to us, it's harder and harder to become part of that. Just specifically, in the state of Illinois, there are 28% fewer florists than there were 7 years ago. Now, this is a loss of jobs and revenue. The sales tax losses are probably the most interesting. Our shops together gross a little over $2 million a year. If you were to figure 35% of that, it comes to $700,000. Okay, take the sales tax portion of that, like 0.8085, it comes to $59,500. Now that's a significant amount of money. There are 429 FTD florists in the state of Illinois, plus other shops that aren't part of FTD. Now, just say they are grossing $250,000 a year. That 35% of that comes down to over $7,000. Okay, state of Illinois has serious financial issues, and I know most municipalities eventually get back a small percent, be it 1% or whatever. So no, we're not a car dealer and we're not going to save the town, but Illinois has enough issues that just what our businesses alone are not paying them in sales tax is significant. Where's the money going? Not here. I don't know if it's going anywhere. So I guess what I'm hoping for is truth in advertising. I don't mind if these places want to advertise, but I would like them to have to state if they are in California that has to be shown. If they are in Illinois or surrounding communities, that's fine. I've spoken to flower shops in Oregon. They got as far as having it pass their, I'll say, House and Senate. The governor vetoed it because FTD has a major headquarters in Oregon, and they said it'll be a loss of jobs. We don't have that issue here. The loss of jobs is happening in our local communities, and the loss of revenue from sales tax. So I guess I'm hoping to have backing from municipalities, that we can contact our state legislators and have them come up with some plan for truth in advertising. Any questions? Mike?
So your objective is to get the state location in their advertising?
Yes, I want to.
And offline?
I'd like to see, yes, a true address of where they are located. And I don't think that's asking too much. I don't think that's unfair. FTD's headquarters are Downers Grove. If somebody wants to contact Downers Grove, great. Don't shift it to a phone bank in Oregon where you're not paying sales tax, though, because that isn't right.
And what other remedies do you think would be useful?
You know what? I just like a level playing field. When it comes to good product quality, customer service, I think your local people know they have to produce. You know, just to say, oh, it's, you know, not fair, not fair, not fair is one thing. I think truth in advertising would level the playing field.
How do you feel about the sales tax? So if I'm a company based in California, I don't have to charge the customer sales tax?
Not a lot of times, because it's done through the way their internet businesses are set up.
So does that create an unlevel playing field for you?
Of course. I mean, 7.5%, 8.5%. Yeah. Think of everything you order online. When you go to Amazon, what are they charging you?
Ms. Engelman, what is the response from your local association or your state floral association done to this?
I can't say they're just local. We're part of several major wire services: FTD, Teleflora, your Society for American Florists, SAF. Does work hard to, well, I don't know how hard they can be working because they haven't enacted anything. But they do protest and say, you know, not fair, not fair, not fair.
I'm sorry, but did they also support the proposed Oregon legislation?
I believe they did.
They did, okay.
Yeah. Also, the state of Nevada has supposedly just passed some legislation, more or less supporting the truth in advertising, and I was in contact with, his name was Mike today, and he said he would send me a copy of what was written, but they actually put some teeth into theirs. Their bill said there would be a $5,000 per offense fine.
So there is a copy of a bill then?
Yes, there is something out there. There are places that have it. And I guess there are other states that have something, but they're nothing with any teeth to it.
And was this bill written with the intent to include all retailers, or was it exclusive to the floral industry?
Florists started it,
Okay.
but I think it was meant to apply to any business that was, any business. It wasn't just only florists.
And has the Illinois Commerce Commission or the State of Illinois Chamber of Commerce been contacted about this?
I have not. It's something I've just recently started
So
on.
this is a real grassroots effort for you.
Yeah, that's, we've been talking about it briefly past couple of months, and I've thought about this, and definitely on your side as a small business owner, not necessarily biased to flowers or against, but I could see any potential small business owner, this being a very easy, common problem for anyone to face if they're not part of some national firm or have a major national online presence. I would be kind of thinking along what Tracy just said, probably less involved with towns, but more with various state agencies dealing with small business administration, maybe even on a federal level, because you clearly do need a statute that protects you, protects anybody that basically could be providing a local service, but is getting end run by somebody that is very tech savvy. My only question to you, I'm an IT guy, but I frankly don't know this answer. Have you looked into what it would cost for you, for example, to make sure that your presence on the internet was up there at the top? Is that a very prohibitive?
It's economically not affordable. These people are pumping millions into their making sure they have placement. If you look at almost any town in the United States, you're going to see Ava's Flowers, Just Flowers. They're almost 100 companies, some of them, using multiple names, that are doing this.
I know something you may not know. In fact, there long ago was a Saturday Night Live skit about this, but kind of just slipped by. A lot of these situations are set up to handle a number of things, and they'll maybe have a line for Davis Flowers and a line for Napa Auto Parts, and they just have to know which line. And they're fielding calls and making money based on a number of businesses, which then potentially hurts a lot of small businesses because they're taken from here, taken from there, all because they had the savvy to set this up. And otherwise have, like you said, no knowledge about what they're selling. Maybe they might have some cheat sheets, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Assemblyman, thank you for coming today in our little corner of the world. I understand you just opened up in Bartlett and you have 4 other locations?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We've been here over 4 years now.
You've been here?
In Bartlett.
For 4 years? Mm-hmm. And the other locations, are they around here?
Yes, we're all in the Fox Valley. Elgin is our original store, incorporated in 1972, but started as wholesale greenhouses in 1962. Our Geneva shop, we purchased about, I'm going to say 12 years ago. So we've been there quite a while. A year ago, last May, we purchased Algonquin Flower Shop, and then this past February 1st, we bought a Schaumburg Flower Shop.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that you're growing like that. My question to you is, have you seen what's happening here in the Bartlett advertising happening in Algonquin location?
Oh, yeah,
and your
that's-
other locations?
That's why we...
This is a town-by-town thing. It's not just a Bartlett.
Correct. It's city or statewide, nationwide. It's an issue. When I said that there are 8% fewer florists in the state of Illinois than there were 7 years ago, that's a lot of little shops, a lot of family businesses. What are you doing? You've been doing something all your life, and and can no longer make a living.
So I'm wondering, I'm just throwing this out here, because this is happening in each of the towns, not only in your business, but for every might be pursued by the local Chamber of Commerce, getting together and writing individual letters from the Chamber about what's happening to the small businesses in each area.
It's not a bad idea.
It's definitely something that I can bring to the board and discuss and see what kind of effort and what they'd want to, what direction they would want to take. I think we would definitely want to take a more generic effort, just in, like Laurel had said, the, kind of truth in advertising for all businesses, not just a particular industry.
Sure.
Right.
And I think you
we could do that.
More Chamber of Commerces that get together and write this letter with a lot of towns that are in the Chamber of Commerce. You'd probably get more of somebody. You'd probably get someone down there to take a look at it.
I think it would be really important also to talk to or have some dialogue with the folks that provided the impetus to the legislation that went through the House and Senate in Oregon and certainly in Nevada as well. Not only looking at that legislation, but to find out what support they gathered from other industries.
Okay.
And again, I love the idea of this really starting with the area chambers as well. I would imagine that you're involved not just with the Bartlett Chamber, but certainly
Yes.
with those communities that you have your shops in.
Yes, we are.
Short term, I think from a governmental perspective, because there's no Illinois state statute, it might be helpful perhaps if the EDC made a formal recommendation to the board that perhaps either a resolution or an ordinance. I mean, a resolution obviously can be put forth rather quickly that talks about truth in advertising for businesses, and with that resolution there would be a proclamation, correct? That's a real quick fix, and that could be published as well, and not just in the local press, but certainly would make the chamber aware of it, and perhaps from that there is some language that we can come up with that would be a little bit more robust and informative to the local consumer, so that they're aware that when they're contacting a generic 800 number, that indeed it's not specifically the local business that's benefiting from that. It's a sweatshop. It's basically answering the call.
Yes, and as I said, then the orders come back to us eventually, but as I said, it's 73%. I don't know what your profit margins are, but you don't pay the rent with that.
Right.
You just really don't. We love what we do. I wouldn't be in this industry all my life if I didn't enjoy it. And there are rewards, and there's variety, and it's a great business. But it's getting harder and harder.
Right. Well, and again, I think that with the Chamber of Commerce perhaps taking a more generic approach to the Truth in Advertising campaign, and then certainly soliciting those other communities, you'd address them the same way you've addressed us. Certainly, I think proclamations or resolutions are, pretty fast. State legislation, it's an election year, not so much.
I think it's important that, in addition to that is, having the chambers get in touch with the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, and getting on the state level with the chamber, and then talking to local elected officials, not necessarily village officials, but state representatives and things like that, who I think, if we haven't done so already, I think they're generally very receptive, particularly to, just business owners, I think. And if you had the chamber momentum behind it, it might be more positive. I think it's something that the chamber could really get their, get involved in, and get the Illinois chamber involved in.
I thank you all very much for your time and consideration. And do I need to fill one of these out? No? Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
The time.
Thank you.
Is there anything more we need to do on that, Tony, in order to?
I would just like to ask one question, Donna. Specifically, when we're looking at Bartlett Flowers and Gifts, I mean, we see that 1048 Norwood Lane, and then we see a phone number. If we called that phone number, would they answer it, Flowers and Gifts?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, exactly. That's what they said when I answered, or when I called
So there's
them.
nothing that can be done about the phone number, of course. They own that phone number, but they're not in.
Right. If you look at the printout that I don't know if you were able to pick one of
Yes.
these up. I had printed one out.
Yes.
So if you read the fine print on the second page or the back of it, it gives an address in Roseville, California.
Oh.
So according to my limited knowledge of looking into this, they might not be doing anything illegal in terms of their advertising, but it's what I would term as deceptive. And if, like I do, if you're calling a phone number without even clicking on the website, just seeing what comes up when you do a Google search and you have that front page, you would never know. Having the Norwood address on there could be problematic. If we wanted to pursue that one particular case, we could make a complaint to the Attorney General.
Yeah, I mean, that seems deceptive.
I agree.
Here's the thing. They may be just picking an address, but they also may have an agreement with that actual dentist, just simply paying them a few bucks to use the address. I know this for a fact because many years ago, there was a tax advantage for big companies to be, I don't know if it was New Jersey, some East Coast state, very small state. And the requirement was you had to have a presence there. So they would typically set up a very tiny office with one person and a phone. That was all you had to do. Motorola was one of them. The only reason I knew is because I worked there. You know, it's a New Jersey or Connecticut company, whatever it was. That was fulfilling that legally. There may not be the same requirement here except to just have an agreement with this guy. And if they are just fraudulently listing the address, you know, is it against the law? We don't know.
Right.
Well, I guess my question to that then was, wouldn't they require a business license to operate in Bartlett?
If they were a concrete business, they would.
They're
But
listing
they're on
a
the internet.
concrete. They're listing a
I
concrete
mean,
address.
this is a big issue going on for quite some time, and Amazon is fighting on this issue particularly because Amazon has virtually no locations, right?
I know the owner of that building and the dentist. I know him personally, and we deal with him regularly. And he does have a legitimate business license in the village. Why they have his address was kind of astounding to us.
And this is different than Amazon. I mean, Amazon
Yeah.
isn't, you know, pretending that they have an address in Bartlett. You know, I mean, they have an address
Yeah,
somewhere,
so
and
that's
they're
a big
paying.
difference. That's a big. I agree.
And,
That's a big difference.
and this place may have a deal with that owner, as Jim said. I don't know. I've never asked him that personally, but his dentist business has a business license in the village, and so do the other businesses in that shop.
But they're not selling flowers.
None of them are selling flowers that I know of. So
You know, it's silly, but years ago, I actually had a dentist in Bartlett that actually had a call center. They would take tech calls in another part of the dentist's office. They don't do it anymore, but it's like, computer support. I mean, what?
And again, not to belabor this, but would it be prudent, again, because there is no state statute that would give the village the authority to amend the business licensing ordinances to state that if you have a business, you're required to have that business at that business's listed physical address?
How would you enforce
I
it?
think that's how our business licenses are set up. If it's just like a shell on an internet, we wouldn't even know how to get them to get a business license. It would be great if you could list anything that lists itself in Bartlett. You're required to get a business license. I don't know how you pursue that.
Yeah,
If
man,
we can investigate why that address is in there and see what they have, but that's about all we can do. But the dentist, and some of you may even know him. It's kind of odd that he has this listed on Norwood Lane.
And again, he may not be aware of it.
Right.
He might not be. We'll look into that part of it.
Thing is,
So,
that's one guy, one
Yeah.
situation. Remember, we don't know, because it's the wild internet, how many businesses of different types of small business are listed in Bartlett. Is there any requirements of Bartlett to say you must be in here? And then how would you enforce it? I mean, are you going to send a worldwide search to find these people and say, you got to pay us? It's hard.
Well,
yeah,
This
I don't know if
is
we
not
can
a
do it.
flower shop problem.
No, right.
This is
this is a
statewide business problem. It's affecting many businesses, from heating and air conditioning to, you name it. But they've been doing this for a long time, as he pointed out, that they're just putting a phone number and a name. They don't need a business license because they're not in Bartlett.
That's right.
But I think this has to come from like Attorney General of the state of Illinois
Yeah.
to stop something like this. This is big, it's big money, and it's got to come from the top.
Yeah, we've heard good ideas here, such as asking the village board to look into it and do a proclamation, and the recommendations of some of the chambers of commerce to take a look at it, and even at the state level, like a grassroots effort. Nobody's really had the ball rolling on this issue yet.
I think it will take, and again, I think it's great that Ms. Engelman brought it to everybody's attention, and the fact that she is a part of a larger community. I think it really provides not just her industry, but all of the industries to really start that coalescing of the chambers and the communities, and really to heighten the awareness of the problem.
Then there's the other half of it too, which is that we need to encourage residents to shop locally. And, part of it needs to be part of the education process for our residents to shop locally so that they understand that. It's like when I go into the Jewel and I see Rana Pasta, products in the Jewel, I want to go up to the Jewel manager and say, could you put a sign on there that says that it's made in Bartlett, because I bet you would sell more of it.
Right.
If people knew local, that the product was made locally. So it's one of, it looks, I see Rana Pasta in all the Jewels that I go into. I see it in Caputo's. I see it all over the place, and I would love for the store owners, but I'd also like Rana Pasta to be more involved and say, hey, you know what, if you could promote that it's made locally, we might sell, we might move more product in the store for, for everybody.
That's a great point.
But,
Is there interest among the commission tonight to formulate, not necessarily formulate a proclamation, but direct staff or recommend that we work on creating a proclamation to this
Sure,
effect?
why not?
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know what's entailed in a proclamation or
I think you're.
I'm not clear on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you make a recommendation to have the village board adopt a formal resolution regarding the truth in advertising issue that Ms. Engelman brought up, and pass it, and then maybe even further that we make some contact with our local legislators, whether it's done through a letter or that the proclamation or the resolution, I'm not saying proclamation, resolution is sent to the local legislators and follow up that way.
yeah, what
I
you
think we
just
need to
said.
hold off until we have more information.
That's what exactly
I
we are
think
talking about. I mean.
Having the law that may or may not pass in Nevada and maybe Oregon, and being able to properly word it and give it
Okay.
some actual
We could do that too and
teeth,
get more
so to speak,
information.
versus just saying, hey, this is what we want.
Yeah, and give you an opportunity too to, have a
the
conversation with the chamber.
Yes.
And get their involvement too.
Better to load the gun properly
Yeah,
than to
you're
just
right.
fire it off.
We
You're
can
right,
do
Mike.
that and
Good.
defer it,
You mean ready to
and then
begin?
when we get more information, go that way.
That sounds almost better, because
Yeah.
I've sat through countless proclamations, and they're nice, but what is it? It doesn't mean anything. If you've got chambers that sign up, chambers are 99% small businesses. You bet they're going to care about this. So if you've got a Bartlett chamber, Streamwood chamber, Hanover chamber, Crystal Lake, whatever, and you've got a couple thousand businesses potentially from each town, and that's going to the legislatures, knowing each one represents, you, pretty soon you got a significant amount of businesses represented by all these different chambers. There's teeth,
No?
because that's what you need is teeth.
Well, you're right. And by having the separate bills reviewed, we can actually draft the model resolution for other villages to take a look at.
No.
It'll make it much easier for them to just kind of jump onto it.
That the Chamber of Commerce look into this truth in advertising and see what they come up with.
There you go.
Well, do you think that the board's looking for us to, at this point, respond to their request we look into this?
I think so, but it's not, it might not be something where immediate action.
Let's back up.
Something
Does the board
being,
even know about
something
it?
being looked
Yes,
at by, for an extra month or two to get more facts before we proceed probably is the most prudent. So, I mean, and like we've been saying, it's a large issue that won't be solved 1 month earlier if we make a proclamation 1 month earlier, but it's something that needs to be brought to light.
So we don't even really need to, at this point, provide them any information back at this point where we're at in this, or?
Right.
Okay.
They'll get the minutes.
Yeah, it'll be on the agenda again in a future meeting, and hopefully with at least 1 or 2 samples of maybe what some of the states with some stronger truth in advertising laws have done.
You guys have said everything we say in here is recorded, and
Right.
they have the potential to read every bit of the transcript. So
That's
they'll know
correct.
we discussed it and the ideas we're kicking around, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Great. Okay, we're finished with that topic. Moving on to the downtown recommendation update.
Thank you, Donna. This is the item that remains on our agenda many months, and this harkens back to actually our meeting that was 1 year ago in June, where we first discussed the mayor asking us to look into ways to engage more commuters at first into the business district locally around the downtown area, which, as you recall, morphed into a broader discussion of the downtown as a whole and ultimately resulted in a list of 24 recommendations. I'm not going to sit here for 15 minutes and read 24 things to you, but there are 6 that I would like to highlight that have changed since we discussed this last time. So you can see the format of this memo is a listing of the 24 recommendations broken down by short, medium, and long term, along with a short reply on status that or any updates that have been done since that time. So I put on the dais photos of some of the sandwich boards. If you recall, one of the recommendations was to use sandwich boards at the 2 Metro platforms. My boss Jim thought it wise to expand that from 2 sandwich boards to 4. So we have worked with Mark Your Space and produced some sandwich boards to help promote some downtown events. And the one you have the photo of in front of you is promoting the Seasons Produce Market that operates in Gorski's parking lot on Fridays and Saturdays. So the 4 sandwich boards with the local event posters have been obtained. I wrote that they were utilized last week, a week ago, so we've used them twice. Public Works is working with us now on a schedule of placement. They dropped them off on Friday at 4 locations around, 2 of them, one on either side of Bartlett Plaza, another one at the near the intersection of Railroad and Oak over there by the train station where people exit the trains at the end of the day, and also another one at the intersection of West Bartlett Road and Devon, right by that Welcome to Downtown Bartlett sign that the EDC put together a number of years ago. And they picked them up on Sundays for us. We have another poster. They're double-sided, and I'll just hold this up. We're going to be utilizing it for the Arts Festival that's going to be in a few weeks. We just simply flip the posters around for the week leading up to that. So that's one of the things that we have done since in the past couple of months. If you would please skip to the next page for the short-term goal number 9, which we discussed applying to CMAP for a grant. As you recall, as a grant, what this really is they take you on as a study subject. They utilize their planning expertise to create what essentially becomes a comprehensive plan for a particular, it can be a whole community, or in this case, what we're applying for is just an area. So I did attend a pre-application meeting at the CMAP offices last Tuesday, June 3rd, downtown. The applications are due in approximately 2 or 3 weeks, and I've been communicating with the staff that handles it. One thing I can tell you is, like we talked about a few months ago, there is big competition for these. I didn't realize how big. There were many towns there asking lots of questions and preparing applications, but we are going to apply as well, and just wanted to update everybody on that. By my recollection, the application is due the 26th. They have their own multiple month-long review process. I looked at the calendar this afternoon. Essentially, their final selections for projects, for 2015 projects, would be done in October, and they schedule their final funding to the RTA board that funds this happens in December. So just wanted to update the commission that we took all these recommendations and followed through on that one, and the application is just about ready for submittal. Flipping down a few into medium-term actions, you recall item number 3 states to market the downtown area to a greater extent, including at area trade shows. And this particular item and this list of recommendations was done early on in the budgeting process for the village board. So the village board did approve an increase in marketing budget. It is for the village as a whole, but it is something we're going to be concentrating on the downtown area as well, to a greater extent. That's actually the next, I'll get more into that in the next item to do with the marketing. Item number 5 is one of the ones I always consider the biggest ones, because a lot of these ideas and issues that we want addressed require funding at various levels, from making signs in-house all the way to major items like reconfiguring traffic patterns and redeveloping old shopping centers and things like that. So one of the recommendations was to create a new downtown tax increment financing district. This was initially discussed at the February 18th, 2014 Village Board meeting. They asked staff, mostly Jim and Valerie, a lot of questions about TIF in general. They continued that until April 1st for staff to provide more information about TIFs for their consideration. That was a meeting where they directed staff to further pursue contracting with a TIF consultant. We have since met with a TIF consultant. I would like to term them as the leading TIF consultant in the state, Kane McKenna and Associates, and staff obtained a quote from them, which is going to be presented by the village board on June 17th. So whatever happens on June 17th, they can review it, direct us to go ahead, ask for more information, but the next time it's going to be addressed in public would be next Tuesday. Again, so if any of you can attend that night, that's the night the village board will be looking at a TIF proposal.
How much do they want?
It's in the neighborhood of $30,000.
So that's about what you've been saying, you know?
Right. The item right after that, after the TIF, is to improve traffic patterns throughout the downtown. The village board engaged the services of a consultant to conduct a downtown traffic analysis, and Jim reminded me earlier today that there are some limitations being placed upon truck weight limits that's partially tied in to this recommendation and the traffic analysis. So, as you all know, there's a lot of trucks rumbling through the whole town and the downtown in particular, causing a lot of damage to the streets, and just, as some residents have attested to, dangerous situations occasionally. So that's something that the board has also been addressing, and it's tied in with this list of recommendations by the EDC. And I have, flipping again one page to page 3 of this memo, this is a very long one, but the short version of it is that one of the recommendations from the EDC was to amend the village's sign code to essentially allow for more and larger business signage. And the proposed sign code amendments were discussed at Village Board Committee in May. They were up last Thursday at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, and you can see here the 5 recommendations, notably allowing business sign center plans and sign plan amendments to be reviewed administratively, meaning in-house by staff, that can reduce time from 3 months down to just a couple of weeks, hopefully. The A-frame signs, like the ones the village purchased and now uses, we're going to allow them to be placed on sidewalks during store hours of operation. Window signage would be increased from 20 to 25%. Reader board signs with some parameters in terms of allowing color, the square footage, the rate of change, and then signs for multiple frontages, allowing a 1-to-1 ratio for those businesses that exist on corner spaces where they need visibility, not just perhaps from one side, but from both, if they're at the corner of a busy intersection or a smaller intersection for that matter. So that's another one.
Quick question, Tony?
Yes.
On the reader board sign, the maximum size, would it maybe be more prudent to not create a maximum size or make the maximum size based on the size of the lot or the size of the shop? The idea being, when Route 59, any spots that develop there, if you do get a big box or somebody that wants to put in a big sign, that's not even, I'm close to what they're going to want, 32 square feet.
The board wanted a size limit on it. So anything that is bigger, there is a variance option.
Okay.
The one that comes to mind is we granted one of the Bartlett High School.
Well, he's good point. The one and only time I was ever invited to visit a business thing, that was a key issue. I had talked with Mike when he first joined in a parking lot at length about the sign thing. I know it's a big deal with our small businesses. He just brought up something that I was like, wow, that's so obvious that it's never come up. How the hell did Jewel and Dominic's and Home Depot, how did they get away with their big signs?
Very.
Their ground signs are based on the linear footage and frontage that they have.
Oh, so the bigger you are, the bigger a sign you...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's for the ground sign. The reader board is subsequent to that, so it's in addition to. But the board wanted a reader board size, and just coincidentally, the Park District just got approval for a variance to do a 32 square foot reader board on the Villa Olivia property. So they wanted to set a size limit on it. And so that's why we looked into some of the ones that are coming up, and that's...
Is that one of those electronic ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the size we came up with. So, I mean, you could have put 50 square feet, 100 square feet, but we kind of looked at what a typical ground sign is size-wise, and proportionate, that's a good one. But you could always give a variance for a larger one.
We'll continue also to bring you updates on some of the other items on this list as well as they move forward. They haven't addressed the long-term ones yet. There's a lot still to accomplish on the short and medium term before we think about some of those bigger issues. But they can also, as I've mentioned a few times, they can be tied in with the TIF redevelopment plan. That's part of doing a TIF study. One half of it is a study to qualify an area. That's the actual study part that looks at building by building, lot by lot, what could be done there, what are the issues, that kind of thing. The other half, why it adds up to 30 is because each of these studies is about 12 to 15,000. The bigger part of it is the redevelopment plan. And that's something that the village will be utilizing for 23 years or more. That'll be the plan for the downtown.
That one about the traffic, I know I've heard for many months, town hall or whatever, that's been an ongoing thing. Something you said caught my ear, and that I know we've had Joan here, and she and others have spoken at town hall, and I know exactly where they're talking about. The trucks, that's part of why we had that big wreck, is they're skirting around stuff. How soon, how realistic is that weight limit enforcement? Because that sure sounds like that would be a great way to shut down big trucks.
Yeah, the police did that investigation, presented it at the last meeting, and the new weight limit and sign placement ordinance is on the June 17th village board meeting. So that weight limit thing will be the first, that'll be implemented on June 17th. Then it's a matter of making the signs and putting them up. They dropped the weight limits for trucks and then added more weight limit signs on local residential streets and moved some of them because they did investigate. Some of the trucks were coming onto the streets and then seeing the signs, and then they're kind of like, well, do I back up, 3-point turn, or just go through? So then they're going to move some signs closer to the intersection. So it's kind of a three-prong approach.
But basically, it's coming.
Next board meeting, they will approve it. And then, it doesn't take long to make the signs and put them up. So
That'd be awesome.
yeah.
Great. Next on the agenda is the media program.
Thank you. This item comes before the Economic Development Commission every few months, and let me remind everybody, we do a dual track approach, trying to reach two distinct audiences, if you will. One is people to come in and shop locally, spend some money, attract some people from nearby communities as well to shop in Bartlett, and the other being potential businesses such as ones that might consider locating in our industrial park. And these are the two main forms of advertising that staff in the EDC has done over the past many years. So throughout May and June, staff's media program included current advertising in the Daily Herald, Chicago Industrial Properties, numerous posts on the Discover Bartlett Facebook page, and an investigation of additional media outlets for the next few months. I've attached some of these ads for you, and at an industrial real estate show I attended a month or so ago, I snagged some extra copies of Chicago Industrial Properties publication because I realize I've told you folks for many years that there's ads in that publication on a regular basis, and it typically generates 2 to 3 inquiries per month. So I have copies of that. And just new for this year, the ads that I've put together for those are the "We're Hungry for Your Business" one. A little bit of branding. It references that we have large food companies coming into the park or that are here already, such as Greco, Get Fresh Produce, Rana Meal Solutions. Cheese Merchants is just about up and running this month. So that'll be the 4th major food company. And when I say major, it's nobody officially ranks them, but possibly 4 of the top 20, 25 in the Chicago market. Get Fresh and Rana and Greco are definitely up near the top. This has worked. We've had, I'm not going to say 2 new projects, but 2 new inquiries for food-related businesses just in the last month. And we're hopeful that, I'm extremely hopeful that I can tell you folks all about them in the coming months if these projects come to fruition. Sometimes they need X amount of square space right away, and if you don't have it, you're out. Other times they'll start looking a year early, year and a half early, 2 years early. And they'll go very deliberately about, starting with 20 communities, then narrowing it to 10, then maybe narrowing it to 2 or 3. That usually gets to the point where they start pitting you against one another for all types of statistics or possible incentives. But anyhow, I digress. This is the Chicago Industrial Properties ad that we've been running to, I'll say, moderate success. When I go to an industrial conference, unfortunately, there's only, I would say, 3 decent ones in the Chicago market per year. And when I introduce myself and say I'm from Bartlett and I'm here to talk about Brewster Creek Business Park, most of the brokers have already heard of it. Some haven't. So once in a while they'll say, I saw your ad. And that's what I like to hear. So, and like I said, occasionally somebody will call or email as a result of this. So that's the ad for the business park.
Tony, can you tell us a little bit more about the cheese merchants?
Yes. They're currently located, I should say they were located for many years in Carroll Stream. We did not do anything to try to take them from Carroll Stream into Bartlett. When we, a lot of times I talk about working with brokers. One of their brokers approached us at this point almost 2 years ago, was one of these ones I was referencing at a meeting, saying we talked with another broker about another food use. They're tied in with Greco Foods. As a matter of fact, the CEO and owner of it, his last name is Greco. And they're coming from Carroll Stream to Bartlett simply to expand. They purchased a building rather than rent, which, as you all know, over the many years will prove to be a wise financial move for them. Instead of renting 150,000 square feet, they own a 277,000 square foot building. There is a tenant in there already. Anyhow, they're one of the biggest cheese distributors in the Chicago market. Jim, I don't know if they're the biggest, but they're
Second biggest.
Are they
they're after Kraft. Kraft is the largest. Cheese Merchants is the second.
Right.
Are they boutique or brand name?
Both. That's the interesting part for whenever we do a future business visit there. Jim and I have visited them at their Carroll Stream location, and let's just say that the very same brick of cheese from Wisconsin can go through a grater and end up in a package for $2 at Aldi's, $5 at Mariano's, or $9 at Whole Foods. So they do have a generic brand, and they have other brands that have very fancy Italian names and photos of leaves and olives on the packages and everything, but it's the same.
If you've
it's the
purchased
same
dry
cheese.
cheese
Yeah.
with a label that's not Kraft, chances are you bought it from the cheese merchants.
Right.
Wow.
And if you ever want to see what 1,000,000 pounds of cheese looks like, when they open up, we'll tour their...
Yeah.
I may want to see it. I don't know that I want to smell it.
It's amazing how much cheese they have, I'll tell you.
Yeah, the rolls of cheese are like 8 feet tall when they come in.
Big.
Manufacture and distribute all over the country?
They don't manufacture. They really get the cheese from large dairies in Wisconsin.
They're the distributors.
They process and package
They
and
process.
distribute.
They do process.
Yeah.
They make the big cheese in the small shredded cheese.
It's all shredded, or they do slices?
It's that, I call it dry cheese. It's like Parmesan, Asiago, that kind of stuff. The stuff you would sprinkle on your spaghetti.
I'll be darned.
That's what they make.
Wow.
About 100.
Yeah.
100 jobs. Most of their employees coming, of course, but it's going to end up being one of the largest employers in Bartlett the minute they open.
Wow.
Well, that's okay. Hopefully they'll eat in Bartlett now.
Yeah, we hope they do. We think they will. And also it helps the branding. It helps saying, we're establishing a cluster of food businesses. I find in my position a lot of times I have to make what's called an elevator speech, where I have about 30 seconds to tell somebody about Bartlett, And one of the things I like to tell industrial real estate people is we're developing a food cluster. Do you have any food clients? And we've had, like I said, we've had 2 of them right now that are looking at the park. And, we're hopeful on those.
This isn't an unheard of idea. Some food manufacturers at their home location have actually had restaurants or, beer producer, they have a bar, et cetera. Far-fetched, but how cool would it be if, for instance, Rana, he can't stop growing, if he had like a restaurant on 59 that incorporated Get Fresh and the cheese place and, basically an Italian one that each one pays a little bit of money towards it because they're getting a lot of revenue, but it would be all based on Bartlett food. Be way cool.
That would be very cool.
Rana pasta restaurant one day.
That would be nice.
Kind of like noodles.
I'm with Donna. Because obviously everybody knows my story. I can't buy as much stuff, but I do buy the Rana in the store, and I get a lot of it from the township because Rana is a big giver to the township. The stuff is good.
They're very generous to both township food pantries.
They gave them like 5 or 6 pallets, and the stuff is good.
That was something the village made that connection.
Yeah.
Talking about becoming a food mecca, has there been any inquiry by Randolph Packing? I'm just curious.
I'm sorry, by Randolph Packing?
Randolph Packing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, because they're in Streamwood, not that I'm just thinking how easy it is for them to move, if they're close by. So
Yeah, a lot of times it's not worth it sometimes for them to make short moves. In a lot of the instances where I talk about it, here's a big new company coming in. The things that really have driven it over the past years is, number one, expansion. Like, I'm in a 60,000 square foot building and I just can't operate like this. And you visit them and it's just stacked to the brim. There's no room to do anything. And that's the case for some of them. And also the ownership component. When the business park was growing by immense leaps and bounds 4 or 5 years ago, when it was one company after another, it was a lot of people renting, moving into purchase buildings or doing build-to-suit. I could rattle them off, but there's at least 20. And, they got very favorable interest rates. In some cases, they moved from a high-tax county to a lower-tax county. Those are some of the reasons for them coming in. And the water and sewer capacity is one of the first things they ask. Available land, available space. A lot of it's workforce, but a lot of them have a workforce already, like cheese merchants. But then the questions they ask me are water capacity, sewer capacity, and electric. That's about it.
Brewster's fully set up for water, sewer, electric, internet, all that, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Right. And they're moving, a lot of them are moving out of older business parks with not as strong infrastructure. So
It'd be nice then if we kept Fresh Express and Chiquita brands at the forefront. I know that they're in that warehouse on Lake Street, and they've only been in there for a couple of years, but again, that's aging infrastructure over there.
that's a good one to keep our eyes and ears on. It just so happens their brokers also are active in Brewster Creek. You'll find that in many cases. The whole
Right.
maybe
And hopefully
a 10 to 15 mile radius.
And hopefully the message to them is that we want them too, beyond the brokers.
That's right.
Our village wants them as, good neighbors.
That building, if I'm not mistaken, used to be the same building that used to make the big plastic flower pots.
Right,
And then-
Durco.
I'm sorry, which building is this?
That's the one that's Get Fresh now.
Duraco.
Yeah, Duraco. Yeah, I couldn't think of the name. Thanks.
Yeah, we want to keep the momentum. It's regaining, and having a big company like this come into the business park, is something that can, we'll be advertising it throughout the entire year.
Yeah, and just because I pass by there pretty regularly, I've noticed that there's been an increase in the number of commercial trailers that have been in there, and also there's been an increase in the actual lines themselves, or the variance in lines. So I think when you see that kind of new truck traffic and the fact that they've had a help wanted signs out there, they're definitely on the move. So that's very exciting.
It is. And for the future of our marketing, as you recall, I mentioned a little while back about the increased advertising funding, and we've been asked before at the EDC meetings how, about increasing advertising and marketing, especially with the downtown area. So 2 things I wanted to mention. The village board did allocate a larger amount of marketing dollars for advertising and marketing, keeping in mind that's for the whole village for the whole fiscal year. But 2 things that we've looked into recently that we weren't able to for the last, let's say, 5 years or so is I got a quote from Clear Channel Outdoor regarding production and purchase of half-sheet posters to place along 3 local metro stations for the month leading up to Heritage Days. We actually did this in 2010, which was the last year of the TIF and was the first year of Heritage Days. The exact dollar amount, I can't recall exactly, but what I included was depictions of a half poster, what I mean by the 1-sheet poster, as opposed to the 2 full-sheet ads that you see along the metro lines. The half-sheet posters are approximately $400 each, and to run for 4 weeks at a station. The double posters are really too pricey. They're really double that. They're about $800 each, and it's I believe $600 or $695 initial setup fee. That's for the artwork and the printing and the color and everything like that. So we'll look at doing either 3 or 4 posters. And what I have also attached is the map that shows you that along our line, 1 and 2 sheet posters are available at both Elgin stops, Bartlett, Roselle, Medina, Itasca, etc., but not at Hanover Park and Schaumburg. So we won't be getting posters at Hanover Park and Schaumburg because they only do the doubles over there. And last but not least, staff also met with a professional video production company recently to explore the possibility of creating a promotional video, or in the future a series of promotional videos about business opportunities in the village. This would be really the most expensive marketing endeavor that our village would embark on. So we're pricing it out. We're thinking about what type of video it would be, but it's something definitely to consider. The EDC has said month after month, to look into doing, other things besides just print advertising. We do the social media, the Discover Bartlett page, and this is another avenue that we're currently exploring to do some
It's funny
videos.
you mentioned that. I am officially old and listen to AM radio when I'm in my car.
I do too.
Like my folks. I mean, you think you're going to be a rock and roller forever, but especially at night. I can't tell you the name of the suburb, but it's some south suburb that apparently must have some sort of pretty predominant industrial area.
Oh, Bedford Park. Yeah, I hear that one all the time.
Bedford Park, we got
They
water.
run buskings.
I'm like, that's an ambitious commercial. I don't know how effective it is, but it gets my attention.
That is actually far more expensive than us doing our own video. I did look into that, just so you know. I met with the 780 representatives and people from the mix, and just to do, I can't even imagine how much money they spend on those. For us to do 2 months of ads on there, 30 spots per day of 30 seconds each, but not for 2 months straight, for alternating weeks, because 2 months straight is too expensive. That was over $24,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and the mix was a similar amount. So I did look into doing radio advertising. It's just so cost prohibitive. I can't even imagine how much Bedford Park must. They're good ads, but yeah, that's very costly. That would be our whole marketing budget, just to do a series of radio ads on 780.
Not for nothing, because I don't know this answer, but rich people, they got Sirius radio. Is that Sirius radio any different in price than, say,
There's no
the MRI?
commercial, there's no commercials on
Yeah,
radio.
I've never looked into it. I don't even have
See,
it.
I don't have it, so I don't know.
That's why you pay for it, so you don't
Okay.
have commercials.
So hopefully we'll be able to bring back also at a later meeting, well, here's, we're going to move forward with this type or that type. Really, I'm pretty set on doing the billboard ads along the Metro line. So that's going to run, I'd like to do 4 posters, either 3 or 4 posters for 1 month.
Great.
That'll run $1,500 to $2,000. And hopefully people will see it.
On the radio just popped into my head. If you think about some of the extra curricular people maybe students that have done something extraordinary that we would like other towns to know of, hooking them up with the radio and see if they would like to tell Chicagoland community about somebody special in Bartlett, something that they did. They would be saying that they're from Bartlett and this is what they did, and get that out sort of in the back doorway.
I've
Like a public service announcement
Yeah.
or something like that?
Not necessarily public service. I was thinking of someone that,
Achievements. You mean this achievements, some kids.
someone that,
But that would not give an idea about the industrials, what they're talking about, I guess. What we are talking about as a goodwill for a village as it is. I mean,
yes,
but not necessarily
Just generally to.
as a village.
As long as you had a connection that you could talk to on radio, that maybe there's, I've seen in the paper, there were four or five students from Bartlett that are going to this Princeton and other colleges and everything. And maybe the radio would like to pick up on that. As far as, could be students, could be someone that did something great, extraordinary. Hook them up with the radio, get Bartlett out there.
Right.
The radio usually comes out here with the TV when there's like a murder-suicide, which had happened last week.
There's your
That's
PSA.
when we don't have to call them. They come out here. But actually, a couple of years ago, we got a lot of free advertising on the mix because we won that, most popular town on the mix.
Exactly.
Those kind of things.
That's a good example.
We take advantage of that when it happens, but I don't know if you call them up and say, hey, would you do a human interest story on so-and-so, I know we got some good play when one of our residents was on The Biggest Loser. He came, and we got a lot of media, and then the mix, it's
And
an occasional.
you had a local lottery winner, too, that made
Local
that.
lottery winner. He was on the radio. But usually the print ads will call you and get stories, but the radio, they just send their people out.
Yeah.
They'll show up, you don't know they're coming. That's what usually happens.
Well, you know what, to Bob's recommendation, years ago before I got on this, I used to bug Steve and Scott, it's like, do something more with our free access from Comcast that they're required to, do more stuff to like push. You don't see it anymore because I think everybody's like cable ads, old stuff, but you used to see some shows on maybe a certain topic out of Mont Prospect or out of here or there. There used to be a guy that put a car show out every week. And there was other topics, some ethnic topics for people like from the Far East. They would have their Far East show or whatever. You don't see the stuff on there, and probably, frankly, I don't check it often enough, but I'm sure that avenue is still available. That's free, isn't it? Because they basically have to give you studio time and equipment time if you want to, and you make your show.
To put it together.
Right.
We use the cable access. We put all our ads, all our meetings, all the public service announcements are all on the cable.
Yeah.
But I don't know about putting together actual TV production.
Well, we didn't we do it once or twice for one of the parades in town?
I honestly don't know.
I think we did.
It could have come out of administration. They might have
National
did it.
Night Out, that's what they did. I think the police department did it.
Yeah, maybe the police department did something. Then they might do it again for this year's, But
Well, we have antique car shows out here, and radio, they're always interested
right,
because there's so much other interest in the Chicagoland area about old cars and antique cars.
yeah, they're coming out like next Saturday or something. They're coming out to the
One on
Victory
59
Center.
and Stearns, they hang out over there.
Right.
Is that the one with the township?
There's a township one, and then there's a weekly one at Bartlett Commons, like a hot rod kind of car show,
okay.
every Sunday.
Cool.
Something that, we can look into. I know I know Bannerman's is big with some of the radio stations, and he brings them out every once in a while, so. I don't know if that costs anything, though, or not.
It does.
So, yeah, he pays for that.
Pays a lot
So.
for that.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Nothing's free.
Moving on to new business. Do we have any new business, Tony?
Well, I thought perhaps somebody would ask about the still tonight, so I paid Mr. Brett Gaylord a visit today since I've sat here the last 3 months and said it was going to be open by the next meeting. He tells me it's going to be open this Friday.
Oh, that's great.
He's got all his approvals now, with the exception of the fire district, which he was working on today when I was over. They were testing the alarm, so my ears are still ringing from that. It should be open this Friday, and this is according to the owner. His name is Brett Gaylord. He's a village resident.
The still.
The still. Yeah, this is going to be just 2 doors south of here.
Their website is up, but
Yeah,
they have their menu
I printed
up.
out their menu today from the website if anybody wants to look at it. I didn't print 8 of them, but I have it, and they're going to be up.
Lunch and dinner, Tony?
Yes.
Yes.
Is
this
his first foray into?
No.
It's not. He has the food business over at the Buffalo Grove Golf Course. When I first met him, he gave me all the information from that location. So
went
they
from
have actually
Buffalo Grove
quite a
to
few
here?
years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big
Is he a
leap.
resident of Buffalo Grove?
No, he's a resident of
Oh,
Bartlett.
he is a resident of Bartlett?
Yes.
So he was from Bartlett, set a business there, and then, wow.
Yes. Yes.
And now he's coming home.
Right.
Cool.
Right, he'll be there. It's going to be open very soon. And this is another easy one to report to you, because you can walk out the front door and look across the street and you see the dumpster there. The contractors were working all day today on Marco's. They were there when I got in today at 8. They were working on it. When I left at 4:30, they were working on it, and they worked on it all day. This is going to be a new restaurant right in the corner of Town Center called Marco's, and it's a pizza and sandwich restaurant. They're going to have outdoor seating. So
We just don't have enough pizza places in this town.
that's what I told them. We needed more pizza places.
That's good.
Yeah. I got new business if nobody else. A few months back, I was suggesting intergovernmental meeting. That fell flat, bringing in the other chamber, whatever. Nobody wanted that. Yeah, but I meant, let's talk with each group, talk with each other and find out what they're working on. I have another idea. Obviously, I have time more than most people do, and when I go out and drive, part of why I got on this was the naive belief that we could do stuff to drum up business for this town. Everybody knows that's a pet peeve of mine. I thought about this, and this may fall flat too, but the message you'll listen to tomorrow will have said, I don't know if this is possible, but I'm wondering, could we request either from the state or from these towns, the surrounding towns, Hanover, Carroll Stream, Streamwood, to know what either their sales revenues or sales tax revenues are, along with population, so that you have a fair comparison, and with Bartlett. That, I think, would give us an idea, and you need to know population, and if you know square miles or whatever, that might help too, to just kind of get a feel. The other part of this, and this may also fall flat, but I think it'd be a great thing. I don't know how receptive they would be to do it, specifically those 3 towns, to ask them in alternating months, like this is June, like maybe for July or August, say, Hanover Park, we would cordially request your EDC members and your coordinator and your community development person to come before us and speak and talk to us about what you're doing, your successes and failures. Skip a month so we have some time to digest it, do the same thing with Streamwood, do the same thing with Carroll Stream. I think those towns are critical because they are surrounding us, and there are different aspects of each town. A good example, Bartlett is one of the older towns around here. There was a reason that Luther Bartlett came all the way out here when there was nothing out here. But what are we providing as Bartlett now to differentiate us from everybody else? And that's a tough call for any town. 2 months ago, we discussed the various shopping centers on 59 and how that one by Higgins, it's not doing as good as we thought. Well, we know, for example, in Hanover Park, that strip mall, they bought it. That's still not doing so good, but they're getting some business. Yet just north of that at Irving and Barrington, where they had a standalone Chuck E. Cheese's right off from the currency exchange, now that standalone Chuck E. Cheese went into the strip mall behind it that had a lot of big openings because they got bigger space. That's sort of a dividing line, Hanover and Stream, but I'm not sure what divides where. But we know that, for instance, Hanover has a big industrial park off of Army Trail and Gary, and you know they've got their big one. Carroll Stream has a giant one from Gary to Schmally, from North Avenue to Army Trail. That's a big. Streamwood has a couple disjointed ones. We've got Brewster Creek. Some of the towns seem to have planned more for this, or maybe it fell into their lap, and I kind of wonder. I would love to know, how does the big industrial park at Carroll Stream affect the fact that they've got a lot of peripheral businesses, a lot of stores and whatnot to choose from? What is Hanover Park's successes and failures, like that strip mall, the struggles with it, or the empty Menards location, or Streamwood, like you guys were talking about our Italian area with all its places that's doing really good. Well, Streamwood has that little industrial park right off of Lake Street where New Hong Kong was. There's that little street that cuts through, and they forever have had a place in there that I think they put together frozen pizzas all the time, but that's not like their main industrial park. What are their successes, industrial versus commercial versus what the citizens want? Because we know Hanover and Stream, but they have a lot of retail and big box where we have now one. Carroll Stream, not so much big boxes, but they got a big industrial base. I would love to know from these people, what are they doing, what are their plans, what are their successes and failures to this end. Years ago when I was at Motorola, I learned a term from a boss we brought in from the outside. It was new then, it's very common now, called benchmarking. The principle behind benchmarking is you humble yourself to say, I don't pretend to know it all, I want to do this, but I would like to measure what I want to do against who I have perceived to be the best in the industry. It is up to them to choose whether they want to open up the door to you and share their secrets. You then take that back. Yes, it threatens them, but it also prompts them to become better at what they're doing because they know, hey, you're looking at them as the best in breed. In that same vein, I think this would give, we may not be able to do anything about it, but I would like to be able to talk to these people as a group, and maybe we can make recommendations to the board based on meeting with these folks to say, this is what they've succeeded at, this is what maybe we can do better, or this is where we're excelling at. So the one is to get that information, because I think it would be very interesting to read, and the other would be the suggestion to bring in commissions and talk with them if they'd be willing, and if my fellow commissioners would support the idea.
Well, I think we already know, Jim, what Bartlett attracts more of is pizza places.
Sure do.
Well, Tony, Jim, do you already have some benchmarking tools that you use? A and B, I'm kind of going, if I was in competition with one village, I'm not sure I'm going to be that open with everything that's led to my success.
There were a lot of parts to that question. I think the first thing he was asking was about sales tax revenues. Was that
statistical
it?
data.
Well, that I can answer easily. That's easy. You could all look it up in 1 minute. That's on the Department of Revenue. They do sales tax distributions on a town-by-town. You could look up every town in the state. Bartlett's lower than all those communities. Bartlett hits just about $200 million every single year, gets about $2 million in sales tax. I put it on the EDC January of 13, but not on 14. I can bring that to an upcoming meeting. You'll see what the sales tax revenues. In terms of speaking with those other communities, I actually spoke with the Carroll Stream Village manager last week, and we speak with the Hanover Park Community Development Director on a regular basis. She's a Bartlett resident, and I see her at these trade shows a lot. And actually, what they're doing is what we're talking about doing. I called the Carroll Stream Village manager to check on a reference for Kane McKenna. What they're doing is they're doing a big TIF incentive for Caputo's. They're doing a new TIF district with Caputo's as the primary
To get a store or to
developer.
get the corporate headquarters?
They have both there. They're
Really?
doing a store. They have their corporate headquarters.
It's going-
So
it's going
the
up.
real easy answer for Carroll Stream is they're doing a TIF. They're giving a huge incentive. I could bring information to that effect. Same thing, just so you know, Hanover Park, they bought that shopping plaza.
Right.
Very blighted, I might add, with TIF proceeds. So a town doesn't usually buy a multi-million-dollar property. That can be a bad scenario in many ways.
Sure.
They purchased it with TIF funds, and you're right, they're working with some community colleges. I drive past it every morning and every night. They're bringing in what they call Hanover Park Learning Center over there. The village is paying for almost all of it. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I can get you that too.
That'd be great.
If it's a $3 million project, the village is paying $2 million. They're paying, or maybe all of it.
You know, Jeff's right.
Yeah.
The towns could say, no, we don't want to compete, but they could just as easily say yes, because you're touching us, we're touching you. If we look bad for you, you don't want that. If we look good for you, all of our money goes up. So I would think it'd be, you know, they could just as easily say, sure, you know, you're interested in what we're doing, we're interested what you're doing, makes it better for all of us. I mean, you got a guy that, like, set up Rosemont years ago, and everybody said, what is he doing? Now Rosemont is some of the prime real estate around. The guy that put Schaumburg together, it was like just a little dirt field, and he stayed the mayor for how many years? And Schaumburg is one of those hot towns. Some of it's dumb luck, but some of it is also some good planning. I'm not saying we have bad planning, but, you know, maybe we could find some way, talking to these people, to see, oh, here's an opportunity for Bartlett that could differentiate us and get our recognition out there, said companies, stores, businesses, whatever, say, we want to come there. Oh, we're going to move there, live there too. Could bring in some money for us if we could figure out what that key is.
It's an interesting idea.
The other towns realize that the way to grow and the way to spend village money wisely is through the TIF proposal. I don't think there's any special thing out there that somebody else is doing or anything that other towns don't know about. I think where the difference might be is that how they perform on the TIF. Everybody is doing a TIF, but how do individual villages perform when they do have the TIF?
Right, how are they marketing that TIF and wooing in business and things like that, sure.
We could reach out to those towns and see if they're interested in coming by.
My thought is the worst they could do is say no.
But we do communicate with them. We're working with Streamwood now on a joint stormwater project. It's going to solve some of their stormwater problems and our stormwater problems.
That's out by where I live, right? That little piece there?
Up on Prospect.
Yeah.
And that's a $5 million program. So that's, so they're all pretty friendly to us. I don't think there's any great secrets. I think a lot of it is with the commercial stuff. I think a lot of it is highway location and density at certain intersections. I think years ago, Bartlett didn't want to have strip commercial all over. Makes our town look a little different than those other towns. We have a lot more open space than those towns.
Sure.
Those are big things that come into play, so.
And that's a big plus, because forever we've heard about that one TIF district, that guy with the materials companies forever fixing it up. You have to put up a building, but I'm like, all those houses that went in there when they got rid of, Swank wanted to put in the dump, and we said no, and we put in a bunch of houses and protected our eagles. That's great. Out there, they got one business, and it's a gas station that's not in Bartlett. Otherwise, they got to go into Elgin or South Elgin, or drive way into Bartlett, which sounds, no, it's not way, well, from where they're at, it's way into Bartlett. To me, and I'm no businessman, but it's just like, whether it's West Bartlett Road, 25, it just all screams for, it's a business here. You got all those ball fields, you got the school there, you got great houses, you're going to have potential industrial. Where's the commercial? Get some commercial out there.
He's working on it.
Yeah,
I know that, wants to do it, so.
great. If you'll look into that, that would be great.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else? I have a motion for adjournment?
Yep.
Second.
Great, thanks.